And we are live. And hello, everybody. And welcome to another edition of the Driving Maul. And today, obviously, joining us as usual, back in the old lounge, is Steve Harris. Welcome, Steve.
Oh, thank you, Ashwin. Wonderful to be here. As always, a privilege and a pleasure. Not just to be on the TDM, but also to be sitting right here on your couch.
To be in my lounge.
In your lounge, yeah. Eating your food, drinking your tea.
Having a bit of Dilmar.
Yeah,
Do drive.
Dilmar.
The wrong sport, but anyway. Right. So, obviously, we've got a few topics to get into today. Obviously, as Steve and myself, Paul's got an event on somewhere, so he's gone off to that, so he won't be joining us today. So it'll just be the two of us. So it'll be a blues-focused show again, like we did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
There's only the blues to talk about.
59 minutes to go.
But one thing that Paul has been doing, been organising and watch parties, and obviously been having a few hit and misses, but one finally really went awesome on the weekend that you're involved with. So fill us in. How did they go, and what was the atmosphere like, etc.?
Yeah, it was a great night in the Zone Sports Bar, which is sort of within the casino, Sky City Casino down in the Tron. And must have said it was a lot of activity happening on the street, and we had a good crowd there to watch what was a very, very good game. And I think the fact that it was such a good game also made the atmosphere. But I thought the show ran pretty smoothly, and we got a little bit of an engagement with a lot of the crowd that was there. There were a couple of other things happening. I think it was International Star Wars Day. May the fourth be with you. So there was a few things. There was also International Nude Gardening Day, but maybe we'll just keep moving as well. But no, listen, definitely a fun night, and it's like anything. The more you do it, not gardening, the more you do those sort of shows, the better you get at it.
And look, and the following comes along, and they know it's a regular thing, and it is a regular thing. So if you're in and around Hamilton, check out the schedule. Paul's got a schedule out there for the shows he'll be doing, as I said, at the Zone Sports Bar at Sky City Riverside in Hamilton. So, and you'll either see this man here or John O'Connor, isn't it? That pops in as well. I think he was there as well. But it was a great event. Things went really well, and it was a fantastic watching event.
And just a reminder too, we will be back there on Saturday, May the 18th, and that's for the Blues Chiefs game. Obviously, you won't be there.
I'll be at Eden Park.
Yeah, but I'm gonna. It's weird as it sounds. I'm gonna drive out of Auckland down to Hamilton, so I'll be down there.
So go join Steve and Paul, and enjoy a pint with them and listen to their pre-game, halftime, and a bit of aftermatch.
And I might shout you a beverage because I've actually got money. Paul's got absolutely no money.
Yeah. So make sure you get on the Patreon, subscribe, whatever you do, and throw $1 a little boy's way.
Yeah, all the money. That's why he can't afford a beer. He's got no money, so help him out as a patron.
Hey, look, I suppose, moving on with the old show, and just hot off the press, as we were just discussing, actually, Steve's just seen pop up on the wire. They still have a wire these days?
Not really.
Not really. Earwaves instead. But hot off the wire is the panel on the Folau versus the ARU hearing is adjourned for them to go away and now make a decision. No decision has been forthcoming yet, but it's taken 4 days to hear everybody and all the well, I was going to say stories, but
evidence,
I suppose, what everybody wants to present. Yeah. So I'm guessing that it's not going to be a short process in coming up with a decision for the 3-man panel that the ARU has put in place.
Yeah, I just wonder if somewhere in there might be a compromise of sorts, but either way, it's going to provoke a lot of opinion. We all know a lot of his either players who are currently playing with Folau have either come out and either supported him, or they've pretty much turned around and said, listen, we just can't. I can't play with this guy, or what he's doing is absolutely wrong.
Have players actually come out and said, I can't play with him, or has it just been Checker?
Oh, not so bad. Just
Checker?
Yeah, I think just probably a lot of players haven't actually come out and said we're not playing with them, but they've sort of commented, that's sort of not really the expectation we have of anybody that we actually play with. Is
exactly.
A better way to
team environment.
Yeah,
Kind of it's interesting. So I mean, like, we're not delving into what he said and etc. But the reality is that when you look at it across, it's 50-50 in terms of supporters and non-supporters in terms of his views of the world.
Yeah, I would imagine the accountants of Australian rugby are also probably keeping an eye on this process as well. There was a story that came out a couple of days ago that he was offered $1 million, which is pretty much the cut the cord.
Yep.
And walk away from Australian rugby. But from what we understand, he has declined that offer. So this is where it gets a little bit murkier. Hence the long judiciary process that is taking so long. So to see what happens.
Yeah, Andre in the old chat room. Sorry, I haven't got the technical skills to be able to paste the comments from the chat room onto the screen. But Andre in the chat room's hit it on nail on the head. The fact is that nobody wins out of this case. But one thing's for sure, Aussie rugby definitely loses either way. You've got there in the red by $8 million. If they have to pay him out his full contract for $4 million, that means they'll be in the red by $12 million.
Yeah.
We were talking about, so does this mean that the Australian Rugby Union goes bankrupt? And what does that mean to Australian rugby? I think if it does mean that Australian rugby goes, liquidates, for want of a term, goes bankrupt, I don't think the impact will be as massive down to the your Super Rugby sides, because they're all pretty much standalone entities type thing. It's the contracts and how they actually manage.
I would hope that World Rugby are watching this very closely as well. I don't think they can really afford to have.
There's no way they can afford to have
a country as huge as Australia. Let's face it, they've actually got a great history in Rugby World Cups as well.
2 World Cups.
2 World Cups. They've been in a couple of finals as well against England and All Blacks in 2015. So they have got a good.
Yeah. So effectively, what you're saying there, 4 finals appearances in World Cups, and although as I said, look, the 1-2, but to actually make 4 finals appearances is actually quite big, isn't it?
Yeah, you could arguably say they bet above their station.
Absolutely.
When you sort of compare expectation to the Englands and South Africas of this world, who theoretically with their numbers and their talent really should be fronting up in every semi-final at every World Cup.
Well, I think just digressing that a little bit into the numbers side of things, is that I think it's somewhere England has actually got the most players out of any country. England's got the highest number of players.
Very, very much so. I just Andre, we can only really communicate with you via the web. But what do you think? I'd like to know what you think is actually going to happen in this situation. I don't think personally that World Rugby will let Australia get too much in the lurch monetary wise. They need these guys up and running, and Australia still has a strong rugby community. You got to remember, it's played in private schools for a good part of the places that it is played in Australia. So I think there's a lot of personal investment from a lot of people who actually love the game over there.
I think you'll find that although maybe the rugby community hasn't necessarily been as vocal as recently, I think if it came to the crunch, you'd all of a sudden start to see that rugby community coming out to make sure that nothing hugely detrimental happened at the highest level.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, I want to see Australian rugby strong. I think it's really important for us. It's important for our competition, the rugby championship. I mean, to say we're already copying a little bit again from a certain journalist. Not even going to mention his name. He works for the Times up in London. We're already sort of copying it that we appear to be basically either losing our way or losing our aura. Just something that we've kind of heard before, or even the quality of our rugby. His comments were simply along the lines of he thinks that the European Cup teams like Leinster and Saracens are stronger than Super Rugby sides. Well, maybe you'd probably say they might be favourites up there, but believe you me, if they came down this neck of the woods, I think they'll get taught a new one.
Look, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that. We'll digress. In terms of what he's saying, in terms of some Southern Hemisphere rugby being at a bit of a low ebb, and to be fair, probably is. I mean, outside the All Blacks, I mean, at the end of the day, the comments like that can be thrown around, but at the end of the day, All Blacks are still the #1 team in the world. And when Ireland had the opportunity to topple them, they bottled it. So, but in terms of Australia and South Africa, there'd be some concerns around their strength. But when you look at, one of the things, and you guys will go over this tomorrow night under the All Blacks edition, is that the Australian under-20s actually tipped up the All Blacks under-20 just on the weekend with the Oceania tournament.
Absolutely, and we'll probably touch more on that tomorrow night. But you also look at, for some of the Australian Super Rugby teams, it wasn't a bad sort of round for some of the Australian teams. Obviously, the Reds got the job done eventually against the
with the boot here and the boot there
against the Sunwolves, and the supposed top team, the Rebels, didn't look so hot in the first 20 minutes. But to be fair, they rolled their sleeves up and made it more of a contest in the second half. And of course, the Brumbies doing the business against the Blues. So, in terms of super level, there's a real improvement from where they are last year. So it's basically it's really important that their rugby is strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at we talked about the Springboks. I think there's some good signs here for the Springboks. Although they might be having some up and down results all over the place in their conference, you can actually see the bones of a good side through the players that they'll have to select from. The one thing that we sort of possibly question as first five is where they might possibly have a question mark. But when you go through the rest of their positions, they've got some pretty X-factor players.
Their conference has been a little bit all over the place. Obviously the most logical two first fives, if you're talking first five, are Elton Yanchis and Henrik Pollard. Are probably the two main guys. But I was really also impressed with Dupree for the Sharks on Friday night.
When he came on?
Yeah. He really good footballer as well. And his brother, the #8 man alive. If he's not in a Springbok side, I'll absolutely go he.
Andre's there. How many Dupree brothers are there? There's the twins, isn't there?
I think that was I think the #8 was Dan Dupree. But yeah, there's three brothers, and crazy enough, their father is Robert Dupree is actually the coach, who was I think he might have represented the Springboks as a halfback. So I don't know how a halfback has such big kids, if you know what I'm. They're huge. Crazy.
Might have got it from mum.
Plenty of biltong and Bordeaux sausage.
Yeah. So there's some question marks around Southern Hemisphere rugby, but I don't think that's fair. Paul's I was just about to mention the old Paul Roos Gymnasium. I think they referred to Paul Roos Gymnasium having quite a convincing win at the Senex schools competition.
Yeah, over St. Peter's. Yeah, really interesting. Once again, I think Andre is just one of those things. Some of these South African youngsters are just absolutely huge, and they tend to just out physical a lot of the New Zealand sides. And I think there's a comparison. I think there's a bit of a comparison with what happens sometimes at New Zealand under-20s level. It's in recent
boy level.
Yeah. In recent years, New Zealand teams at under-20 level have really been struggling. Thanks for that too, Andre, with the three Dupree brothers. He partnered Nas Botha and played for Northern Transvaal and Natal. Yeah.
There's the halfback.
Yeah, very good. They're very, very good footballers, good, and obviously some very good breeding.
Yes. Well, moving on earlier than usual into the old Mickey Mouse moment of the week, because it's just there and Paul's not there to run things in order properly like he normally is. So we'll jump into the old Mickey Mouse moments of the week, and Paul's actually put one in here. So this is what a game that I didn't actually see, but he thought it was a bit crazy that a number 8 could run from over halfway to outstrip the defence to score a try. So that was Paul's pick of the week, and it does sound a bit crazy. Number 8 running. DrivingMaul is a very athletic number 8, but for him to run from about, my understanding was about 60 metres.
Yeah, I don't know if it's. I wouldn't put it in maybe in the Mickey Mouse scheme of things.
I didn't.
I'd put it in the outstanding book because he's a fairly big guy.
He's a big guy, absolutely.
He's a big guy and really just showed enough to actually get to the corner, just to see the cover off. So no, it was good, but not my Mickey Mouse moment.
This is like when I heard about that, my mind sort of sprung back to old comical Ali down at the Cape Town in a blue and white jersey at that time, not in a Super Rugby jersey, but running 60 metres from the Wellington defence to score a try.
Mickey Mouse moment is when a lock takes a quick tactic and puts a cross kick in for the winger.
Yeah.
Didn't he do that? Didn't he do that?
Oh, he's done that. Yeah, he's done that. Yeah.
Didn't he do that in the test? I think he did. I think he did at Eden Park.
Yeah.
Ali Williams does a cross kick. I just forget who scored the try. Might have been maybe Doug Hallett or Mills Muliaina. one of those two boys say that.
Before Mills made the mistake again down State Highway 1.
That mental transparency that he had with those Auckland players. So probably did the trick. Listen, I've got two moments. Sharks captain Louis Schrader, and in the aftermatch comments with KT or Carlton Anna basically said, "Hey, listen, you got a draw tonight. Probably a little bit of disappointment." And Schrader replies this, "Yeah, well, it's a little bit like kissing your sister, but I'll take that." Since when did a sister kiss become a consolation? It's never been a consolation.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's very incestuous behaviour. Seriously. Now, I thought that, I must admit, I cracked up laughing. I think we've got to move on from that sort of comment, but it is funny. Now, my other, and I probably shouldn't really, being a commentator myself, throw stones, but I will. Fox head commentator Greg Clark. A couple of little name faux pas during the game. Oteri Black having a shot at goal. Oh, that's a penalty. That conversion attempt by
Oteri Clark.
Oteri Clark. They started making up new names, and then they were talking about possible midfielders.
Hey, well, hang on. Before we move on too quickly, it might have been beneficial if Oteri Clark was on the field with the way that he was kicking.
Oteri who? Now the other, they were talking about possible midfielders in contention for the All Blacks. Obviously, Manonu was mentioned, and they went through a few names, sort of Ryan Crotty, and they came up with a new player I've not heard of, Nani Laupepe. I've never heard of him.
Well, my understanding is that they're doing the scientific experiment where they're bringing back Lani. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nani Laupepe.
Oh, that guy.
Nani Laupepe. And George Laupepe.
Yeah.
And they're going to mix them.
Oh, that's what they're going to do.
They're going to the lab and they're going to mix them. It's a Fox Sports special. Okay. And because they know that the All Blacks are struggling possibly with centre combinations, I thought that might work nicely.
So beam me up and then beam them back down again. Yeah. Sounds good. Oh,
yeah.
Here we go. We've got a couple of other things. What's happening to the baby backs kicking?
Oh, Terry Black's kicking. Yeah, I'd look. Because we mentioned old Terry Clark. It's very disappointing to think that a professional rugby player has the kicking stats that he does. Now, before he has his first shot, they bring it up. I think it's 73%. And to my mind, as the number one goal kicker in the team in the first shot, you've got to be over 80%.
I'll tell you, can't see how much going to the rugby.
Yeah.
Mate, there might be. There is a Laumapi playing in New Zealand. Kane Laumapi, who's the lock, who's playing for the
No, that's Laumapi.
Oh, yeah, Laumapi. Oh, you get that.
Now you see mixing yourself up there, and you're having a go at Clarkie.
So,
Yeah,
Andre, it's a real interesting discussion. We had discussion on the All Blacks edition, and we'll probably talk about it more on that All Blacks edition. But yeah, there's five midfielders. One of them's going to miss out. So.
Well, it's a feature on the All Blacks edition, which is who's on the plane, who's in the waiting lounge, and who's basically been told to go on holiday, isn't it? So, and obviously with Laumapi, he's one that's in the lounge effectively. But you guys will go into that more tomorrow.
I see we got another man on screen there, Pierce. Welcome. Makaola. Kia ora, brother. Kia ora to you as well. I hope you're enjoying our kōrero this evening, or our chat. Yeah, it's a bit of a worry when you get us two together.
Oh, we haven't gone too much into the Blues. We just talked about Terry Clark's kicking.
Yeah. Well, that's all. We'll park that one up there.
Yeah.
So what was your Mickey Mouse moment of the week?
Oh, look, actually, it's a Mickey Mouse moment, but it came out of the Blues. It's not really Mickey Mouse, I should say. It's more technical, and it's out of the Blues game. And the fact is that conversation's not being had around the defensive areas and giving away too many penalties, yellow cards, etc., as opposed to having that conversation about, hang on, we've got to change our strategy on field. Yeah. It just seems to be, again, I think one of the key things there is, to me, just seems to be a lack of leadership and decision-making on the field, which weird because it was happening at the beginning of the season, and now it's sort of reverted back to previous seasons.
Yeah, what part of the last warning did I understand?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like, what are we going to, hang on, okay, we're on last warning, what are we going to do? We've got to change it up. Let's give away the try. We're better off giving as we talked about, right? We talked about this twice a couple of days ago and then yesterday as well, is that give away the try, get back to halfway. Because if you give a yellow card away, you're going to give a try away as well. So now you've been double hit with a yellow card and a try. Whereas if you just try and defend it legally, but if they score, and you end up back at halfway. And unfortunately, effectively what happened is that with the Blues is that there was no communication internally, and they gave away the penalty, they gave away the try, and effectively 2 yellow cards. They were lucky that Fainga scored his 3rd try. Otherwise, it would have been 13 men on the field because another yellow card was coming. So there was Ofatonga Fussy on naughty chair already, and I think it might have actually been Carl that infringed that was going to get pinged, but Fainga scored, and the ref was about to put his hand up for the penalty, which would have meant penalty try as well as the yellow card. But he then saw Fainga, just as he was about to blow the whistle, he puts his head around the corner, sees Fainga going over, and he blew the try instead. So the Blues dodged one. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, we're 25 minutes into the show, but it actually segues quite perfectly to our next subject.
Penalty counts.
Penalty counts. And the team we're going to talk about is the Crusaders. I've got to be totally honest. I've always defended the Crusaders, or I defend most sides that are good sides, because I've always taken the theory that good sides always sometimes get the run of the green with the officials sometimes, because they're very good at what they actually do, until I basically saw some of the stats, or the Crusaders stats especially, and they are the most penalised team in the competition, which kind of makes it amazing as well that they're actually leading the competition, and basically only the 2 is it the 1 loss? Yes. One loss,
2 losses. 2 losses.
Waratahs.
No, 1 loss. Sorry, Waratahs. 2 draws.
Yeah, and two draws. 2 draws or 1 draw?
Well, the first draw was courtesy of the Highland.
Oh yes,
yeah, sort of a draw.
2 draws, 1 loss.
Yeah.
But anyway, something you kind of pick up on, if you think back to the Sharks Crusaders game Friday night. Now, Joe Moody was penalised 4 times. So is that really that should be enough to warrant a card at least?
And it's consistent. Well, the term there is consistent infringing, and 4 penalties against 1 individual is consistent infringing.
Oh, very much, very much so. And we've been watching previous games where us two have been texting each other, and usually it's something along the lines from Ashwin, oh man, they're getting away with murder, and I'm going, oh, maybe you're being a bit harsh. But now that you think about it, and it'd be nice to get your thoughts out there, what you think. do they actually get a bit of a free ride? We actually saw one game from the previous, was it the week before? Was it the Lions game where the official, after warning the Crusaders on numerous occasions, decides to pull out a yellow card after the final hooter goes?
No, actually, that was, I think it was the Highlanders game.
It was the Highlanders game.
And at about the 60-minute mark, I sort of, because we were joking with the number of penalties that the Crusaders were giving away. Like, they'll get a yellow card with 1 minute left on the clock. And sure enough, they got a yellow card with 1 minute left on the clock. And it's just like, well, it's pointless. Now, I think one of the things we've talked about is, so teams are quite strong up into the 40-minute mark. And then all of a sudden, the Crusaders sort of do a burst just after half-time. And it seems to blow the game open. And the thing is that, but look, the Crusaders ended up winning by 20 points or something like that, right? But here's the thing is that the Crusaders give penalties away, which stops the team scoring, which stops them getting momentum. Momentum is the biggest thing in rugby. Because once you're on a roll, very hard to stop a team, right? And it's just like, so you've just had your momentum killed. But when they've got their momentum, the teams aren't infringing. And they're scoring their points. Getting that momentum, that's where they get their 20-point lead. That's what's happening. And so effectively, I just don't understand when everybody is now becoming so aware of the Crusaders infringing patterns that the referees still let them get away with it. And it's not the fact that the penalties aren't getting them, but the fact is that they're not doing anything about the amount of penalties that are flowing. Especially in key parts of the field.
And I've got to say, credit to the official. I'm not a Brendan Pickerel fan, but to be fair, he was penalising them for stuff that they weren't doing. And we've actually seen it. It's not the first time. If you even think back to game 1, Eden Park, Manasi Mataele knocks down a pass. Now, in sevens, that's a yellow card
it's a yellow card in 15.
Every day of the week. But you also think about that game, Bryn Hall basically coming around and collapsing when the scrum was under pressure.
So there was already an advantage being played for a scrum infringement from the Crusaders, and Bryn Hall dives in the back of a Blues scrum to kill the advantage.
I see Andre has a similar take to you. Says the Crusaders get more free rides than any other team year after year. I hate to say it, Andre, but it's actually appearing that way. I certainly
it's not appearing. It's actual.
I didn't know.
Stats back it up.
I didn't know I subscribed to it, but you'd have to say.
Look, I mean, I converted Steve because I can't remember which game it was. It wasn't the Highlanders game. I think it might have been the Lions one. And the fact is that, look, the Lions are on track. There's Billy Harmon. I think it's Billy, isn't it? Billy Harmon. The Lions are 5 meters out. He's off his feet. He's got his hands on the ball, holding the ball into the ruck, slowing it down. Now we know that rugby is about split second. Split second means that you get your defence lined up.
I'll tell you what, one thing we should talk about, something in that game that the Sharks did really, really well, unlike any other team. They actually sent 2 guys into the tackle to tackle high, and they actually kept the ball carrier up off the ground and did it very, very well. So they were able to slow the ball down.
Look, and here's the other thing that the Sharks did that no other team does. They took the penalties. Take the penalties, because the Crusaders keep infringing, knowing that, hey, we'll give away a penalty, they'll kick for the corner, we'll infringe again. Right? And we're not going to get someone sent off, so we're all safe there. We'll infringe again. So take the 3, accumulate the points, get back down there, score again.
Very perceptive man, Andre. You're saying exactly. They played to the conditions. They were smart. They knew to play for penalties. And but the couple of times they actually got over the ball, and basically they got really strong over the ball, and basically what they're so strong, they're able to sort of stay there and capture those infractions.
Look, Crusaders aside, there's one other thing, point that I've talked about with Paul on quite a numerous occasions, is actually the breakdown. To me, everybody talks about how the hard breakdown is to rule on. The key thing is that players coming in to jackal the ball have to support their own body weight. Okay, nobody or very few players, and this is David Pocock included, and this is Paul discussions with Paul general. Sort of around David Pocock being a good jackal. I said, watch David Pocock next time he jackals. His arms go past the ball, down on the ground, and then he drags them back to pull the ball up. That's illegal because he hasn't supported his own body weight. his hands have gone down on the ground, which you're not allowed to do. Okay, so now that's one player, but you watch the Crusaders; they're doing that constantly. One thing Andre's mentioned again in the old chat room: Matt Todd blowing past the ruck, taking players out that aren't involved in the ruck. You know, this is basic, simple stuff.
They were getting caught out with the little niggly things as well. All of a sudden, Pickerel was watching everything, and he was consistent too. A couple of times he pinged the Sharks as well, and rightly so.
And this is another thing. I think I've converted you on this one. Is the fact is that I want to see the refs ping everything, right?
Yeah.
So now, if the refs ping everything, we're going to have a stoppage every 30 seconds type thing, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's not the official fault.
That's not the official fault. And the other thing is that if that happens, that's going to happen for the first 2 or 3 games. After that, people are going to start realizing, or players are going to start realizing, they're not letting me get away with anything.
Yeah.
So they're now going to back off. Yeah. So we're going to get some. Paul's not here, so I can say this: with some shit games for a little bit, right? But after the players realize that they're not going to get away with things, they're going to have to start pulling back and play by the laws of the game, right? And I think that's where we talked about our friend up north. One area where the North have got it over us in a big way is the officiating. Yeah, our officiating is not up to standard in the Southern Hemisphere.
I agree with Andre's point as well about the Sharks line out. That was crucial for them. If they got their line out right, they probably win that game quite comfortably.
Yep. No, don't disagree with that. Can't disagree with it. It was correct. Yeah. I mean, realistically, that last 2-3 minutes, the reason why the Crusaders got down there was I'm pretty sure there was a couple of wobbly lineouts from the Sharks.
And it's fair to say a lot of the Crusaders went missing on the night. I mean, to say Kieran Reid definitely picked up his game in the second half, and
which is great to see as an All Blacks fan.
Oh, very much so. And he got into the physical stuff. He was sort of making good hits on the advantage line. I mean to say, I love the skills of the guy. That nice little touch pass to get Jack Goodhue through the gap, and he is. When it comes to lineouts, he is the king of lineouts, and that probably had a bit to do with why the Sharks lineout was so dysfunctional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not a witch hunt at the end of the day, but we're actually just putting that, we're just raising that question. Yeah,
it's not a witch hunt, but it's also very frustrating, though, isn't it? Oh, the fact that it's that obvious.
Oh, very, very much so. There are sides that are basically busting their butt to stay in the contest. I can think back to that Lions game where the Lions played pretty well for a good period of time, but every now and again there was a contentious decision. So
the bounce of the ball, the rub of the green. Yeah, and it's just like it always seems to go one way, and it's that Lions game would be a good example because. I think in the end there was about a 20-point gap in that Lions game, and but that was not really. I don't think that reflected that game at all.
Yeah. Oh wow, man! Look, 35 minutes has gone on that, and we haven't really touched on the Blues.
So, not really.
No.
We're trying really hard not to talk too much about the Blues.
But unfortunately, we're going to go there.
We're going to go there
right now.
well, I suppose it's a roundabout way. We Blues recruitment. Because it was going to be about Triple T and how they were chasing him, but then the news came out today, or was it yesterday?
Yeah. Today. I caught wind a couple of days ago that the Blues had basically sort of poked their noses in there to have a bit of a crack. So it was a little bit of an irony that this morning that the news came out that Triple T, or Te Toiroa Tahua,
well, you can say it properly,
had basically decided to stay with the Chiefs. Yep. And I must admit, initially, I was basically a little bit disappointed that he didn't look to sign with the Blues, because I think if he came to the Blues, he would get a heck of a lot more opportunities and game time, because I think probably staying on, sitting as currently the number 2 player at the Chiefs, or number 2 halfback, I think he's jeopardising his chances for the All Blacks, especially the way Brad went.
There's two sides to that coin, really, right? He's either jeopardising his opportunities to be selected for the All Blacks, or he's going to be selected for the All Blacks and he's not getting enough game time, right? Yeah. And we know that the reality is that for a player to be good, you've got to get game time.
Andre, you must be in my mind at the moment because that's exactly where I was going to go to. Recruitment.
Well, so effectively, so they missed out on Triple T, which is disappointing. And what we were talking, again, we talk about this regularly. What Andre's saying in the chat room, it's a 10, it's a halfback. It's a 10, it's a halfback. 10 is probably the number one priority, but halfback as well. Halfback with a crisp, snappy pass is basically get it out, make the right decision. So it's two things, right? Make the right decision, get that pass going, and then number 10.
Yeah. And Andre's right again. They are such a tough watch, these guys. And once again, you come back to the recruitment officer, Tony Hanks, who's been in the job a while now. So he's had plenty of time to acclimatise himself. I would imagine whoever does that job has got to have a little bit of foresight at what they're looking at. Because let's face it, there's probably no Super Rugby team that's had average halves that has actually won this competition. It's as simple as that.
I think with the modern, with the modern rugby, nobody's had an average half.
No, even when Dave Rennie came aboard with the Chiefs.
Yep.
So he bought. Yeah, there was Cruden and Kerbalo. He had two guys that were All Blacks. He had quality. Even if you look at when the Reds won it in 2011, they had Genia and Cooper at their best, but they were both international players.
Yep.
At the time, you look at the teams. You look at the teams that won it. Okay.
Well, like the Highlanders, Superwanga and Smith,
Crusaders, Hall and Myra. You've got to work it out. Who was the team that basically did the Moneyball thing? Was that the Oakland Athletics?
I don't know who did it.
Was the baseball team, the Moneyball, based on the movie. They just basically looked at stats. Now sometimes that might work, but at the end of the day, you still need X factor. You kind of look at the Highlanders at the moment with Josh Ioane. My God, he looks like he's got X factor. Already X factor. Already, he's only in his second season, and he's been talked about as a possible All Black in the future.
And where's he from?
Yeah. Where do you go to school? King's College, Samoan father, Māori mother from up north, so he's got ties to Northland as well. It's Jack Goodhue all over again.
Absolutely.
Played
Braden Enor.
Played for Megs.
Yeah.
Braden Enor played for St. Kitts. It's just.
And the fact is, you look at Braden Enor. Braden Enor is a classic. Actually, I think Braden Enor is even more of an example than Josh Goodhue, even though I think Josh Goodhue's a better player. But Braden Enor was talked about well before he was picked up by the Crusaders.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Andre's just mentioned Auckland Club Rugby. Like yourself, I watch a bit of Auckland Club Rugby myself. Sometimes you get the odd guy who's actually showing some talent at club rugby. There's a couple of examples that I'll go to. Probably about 4 or 5 seasons ago, there were two guys. One guy, Andrew Makaleo, who's now with the Crusaders, and Teleni Siao, who was with Grammatic at the time. Now I know that the ex-head coach of that team very well. It was when Richie Harris and also Joe Snee had the side. Now they approached Auckland Rugby at the time and said, "Hey, we've got these two kids that we think, man, they could be Super Rugby players in the making." Now Makaleo got told he was too fat, and Teleni Siao, the Blues offered him a wider training contract. Now there must be other scouts around watching guys.
Hey, but hang on, how about this guy called Nathan Hughes?
Yeah,
wears a white jersey now.
Talent, I think you've just got to have an ability to.
I think just to come back to a little bit to Andre's in terms of club rugby. The reality is that I think that's your forwards. I think can mature, say that 1 or 2 years later. But with the backs, what you're starting to see is that they actually mature because our first 15 competitions are so developed. They're getting picked up. The backs are getting picked up at first 15 level because they see the potential in them. Yeah. They can see, like a Ioane or someone like that, or Ian or Goodhue. The guys can see is like, he's got the goods. We need to coach him and get the right stuff into him. With the forwards, they obviously mature because of what forward play is. You got to bulk it up a bit more, and then etc. But so your first 5 in that, I think you're picking them up from school rugby. You're not picking them up from club rugby anymore.
Oh,
you get lucky.
Oh, you're identifying the talent, but I think you should try and incorporate them into a bit of club rugby just to actually to try.
But you got to sign them.
Oh yeah,
because if you haven't signed them, someone's going to sign them, right? So you sign them and then say, okay, you're on our books, but we want you running around in the club competition.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. See, this is the issue. The issue I've basically got with whoever's doing recruiting is that they're recruiting guys with the greatest of respect to Jonathan Ruru. I doubt whether he would have been the starting halfback down in Otago, and yet all of a sudden he's good enough to become a Super Rugby player. Then you get the likes of Otere Black. Now, originally, when Otere Black was originally with the Hurricanes, the Blues did approach him. He turned them down.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, a couple of years transpires. Why does he all of a sudden become the answer? And if I look at Otere Black's game, to me, he looks like a really good journeyman type first five. He's not going to run at the line. He came to Auckland with a big reputation as a goal kicker. If you're not kicking goals, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It's just going to go. It actually, more than the goal kicking for me, is kicking out of the hand. His kicking out of his hand is just not good enough. There's no distance in his kicks. The one thing that Steve and I have talked about is Auckland, the Blues exit plays are just shocking, right? In saying that, last couple of games, even though they've lost, have been a bit better. But their exit plays are shocking. So they score. So what happens in a Blues game? Blues score, the other team scores pretty much shortly after because they haven't exited. And one of the reasons why the exit plays are so shocking, Terry Black doesn't have distance in his kicks.
Yeah. You know what? They probably, if they were really smart, if they actually had any brains, I would have looked. I know I'm probably showing a little bit of bias here, but I would have looked at Jack Debrasini from Northam simply because he's got a massive boot. He will carve you distance. Yep. He identifies space absolutely brilliant. It's a shame that he's with the Chiefs and has taken a few injuries. But if you're going to just have a pivot who's mainly a goal kicker, well, then you look at somebody like Hayden Parker, who will basically kick most of his goals. What's his kicking success? 95.
Oh, geez, it's stupid.
Didn't he kick 27 kicks in a row? If that's what you're looking for, a guy who can kick goals and win you games and do enough to just manage the team around the paddock, that's the sort of footballer you go for.
Again, we talked about this pre-show. Is the fact is that the Blues, if they can't find somebody that's going to be the mercurial first five, find your journeyman first five that ticks the boxes to do the basics and do the basics at close to 100%, and then build a game plan around that. It's not rocket surgery.
And once again, you sort of, in key areas, in key positions, you need quality. I see that the Blues have re-signed James Parsons for 2 years. With the greatest respect, I doubt whether James Parsons would be a starting hooker in any of the other franchises. There are probably a couple of franchises. I'm probably talking about the Highlanders. Would he push Coltman out? Would he push Dixon out? No, probably not. If you go to the Hurricanes, would he push Coles out? Would he put Armour out?
Riccatelli. He's not going to push three of them out. He might have a shot at the Chiefs.
Yeah, because they got injuries. Nathan Harris and Pollard are their two. I suspect are their two main hookers, and I probably doubt whether he'd be the number. So look, he wouldn't make.
He might go touch and go at the Chiefs in terms of getting amongst that mix, so to speak. But Nathan Harris is the All Black hooker, so he's not going to push him out. So he'd be a bench starter at the Chiefs at best. And the fact is that when you look at the makeup of a hooker these days, right? A hooker is actually a ball player these days, right? He's basically you look at down at the Hurricanes, you look at Coltman and Ash Dixon, right? They're actually ball runners. They're runners. They're handlers of the ball. Yeah. You look at Nathan Harris, Cody Taylor. Obviously, all the hookers at the Hurricanes are all ball playing hookers.
We actually just touched upon something. How often do you see James Parsons pass, and when he does pass, he throws an intercept?
But I know exactly the moment you're talking about, and the fact is that how could he not see that intercept because he double pumped it? He double pumps it. That's why Brad Weber was able to get into that space.
I'd like Andre's thinking we do need 3 marquee players. The problem is a lot of the good marquee players in New Zealand are all pretty much tied up. I mean, it's hence they had a real crack at Bowden Barrett a few years back, but they should have been a bit smarter. Instead of just targeting one guy, I would have gone after Moanga as well. You know, you've got.
Well, look, I'll be honest with you. It's pointless trying to chase anybody out of the Crusaders setup. Now, if they're born and bred from Christchurch, because we've seen that basically anyone born and bred from Christchurch just doesn't want to come up here. Your Tom Taylor scenario. The Blues went for Tom Taylor, and Dad said no son of mine's playing for those Jacks.
Here's a question. Here's a question for you, Exron. How much should the New Zealand Rugby Union be concerned about this?
I think so. I think so. Stockpiling of players in particular, right?
And do they care?
Look, let's go back to they should care. They should absolutely care. Let's go back to the Triple T scenario with Brad Weber, where he's not getting any game time. If the New Zealand Rugby Union, the New Zealand Rugby Football Union, controls all player contracts, they should be getting involved. Say, what's the best interest of our top players? Is to get game time. He's not getting game time. And surely the discussion has to be held that should we be looking at trying to see where's a good fit where he's going to get some game time. All right. The other thing is that, and this goes outside of on the field type stuff, right? So we know that rugby in the Auckland region, which is at the end of the day the biggest catchment in New Zealand, doesn't matter about performance, still the biggest catchment, right? And we know that they're losing ground to every sport, and particular to the other oval ball code, right? There was a post that was placed on social media today from the other professional oval ball code in this country, in the city, and that had something like 13k of comments on it. Try getting a Blues post. They have 13k of comments on it.
Absolutely
not going to happen, right? So then they're going to think, hang on, this team's struggling. Andre's put in they need 3 marquee players. Well, it's not so. I agree with them in one sense. It's 3 marquee players, but we talked about it before. It's hooker, halfback, and first 5 is where they need to get quality players. You get someone like Triple T that's sitting riding the pine at the Chiefs. You surely got to be looking at that and saying, hang on, we better look at what's the best utilization of our resources there and where's the best suited. Go back even more years, and we go back to the whole Tom Taylor scenario. At the Crusaders, you had this fella called Dan Carter. You had the fella called Colin Slade. Tom Taylor. Tyler Bloodendale. Right? Yeah. And the 4 of them were more happy to sit there, and at the end of the day, Colin Slade, Tom Taylor, and Tyler Bloodendale headed off overseas rather than chase a black jersey. And we talk about the lure of the black jersey. Obviously, there was no lure of black jersey for them. If they weren't playing for the Crusaders, they weren't going to play for, and there was only positions at the Blues. They weren't going to come up here and play.
No, not in your life. In fact, I think from what I understand, Tom Taylor basically decided not to come north against the wishes of his dad.
No, it was. Dan Carter was the same as well, because Dan Carter's living in Newmarket.
Oh,
he lives in Newmarket.
We should charge him triple for the rent. We should charge him triple for Yeah, listen. I don't know. There's no easy fix, but maybe the easy fix is the recruitment officer needs to be changed out.
So, or
does he have KPIs?
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody has KPIs.
Yep, that's right.
You're either good at it or you're either good at it or you're not.
But the thing is that you look at when there's Tony Hanks. Yep. Because before him was Ant Strong, and he was in that role for donkeys years. And it's just like, where's the results? It's been.
That's one question. If I was able to have a one-on-one with Steve Chu, or I know Neil Sorensen used to be the head of sort of like
contracts,
contracts and what have you. I'm not too sure who does that job at the minute. I would basically like to ask, how can one franchise stockpile X amount of players when you've got another franchise who's friggin' absolutely struggling, and the quality of what they've got is not up there. And unfortunately, that's where I see the Blues at the moment. Look, listen, definitely an improvement from what we've seen in some areas.
Look,
in some areas they've improved.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt that way until the Chiefs game.
Yeah, defensively, I don't think they've been too bad this year. But on saying that, the game management is just still poor. It's just off the scale. And sometimes to have game management, you've got to have smart players, smart quality players.
Actually, interesting. You mentioned game management, and Brumby's game was a good example of that. I agreed, like straight from the kickoff type scenario, they got a penalty, right? And let's have a shot at goal. This is like one of the things that the Blues have been struggling with in the last, actually the whole season. They've been very dominant in the first half, but they haven't been getting the points. Apart from the Waratahs game, where they scored 3 tries very quickly, they haven't been getting the points on the board. So I agreed with them taking the 3, right? But then Terry Black misses that kick. But they get another penalty. I think they scored the try, he misses the kick. They get another penalty, he misses the kick. At that stage, I'll be saying, you're not kicking well. Let's go to the corner. But they didn't. They carried on taking shots at goal. And it's just like, no, hang on. He's not getting the shots at goal. Let's go to the corner.
You've got to kick these.
Yeah, if you don't kick them, we're going to the corner. Yeah. And it's like then that change didn't happen. But yeah, hey, look, I suppose it leads us nicely into our next one. Is the fact is that evening out the squads and the sort of thing. Is that one thing we're looking at the possibility? And I can't remember. I've gone blank on the number of years, but it's a considerable number of years. This could be the least number of New Zealand teams in the finals. Yeah. So at the moment, pretty much guaranteed the Crusaders and the Hurricanes to be in the finals mix. The Highlanders have a very good run in, so they probably should get into the finals, but there's no guarantees. Yeah. So there is the very not likely possibility, but there's a high chance that there could only be 2 sides from New Zealand in the finals.
Yep, it's kind of looking that way. I don't know whether it's a case of some teams have improved. I wonder what we're seeing with New Zealand is depth starting to hit New Zealand a little bit more. I just want to acknowledge Andre what he says up there about the 3 hookers at the Canes and the Blues have none. Brother, totally agree with you.
They've got 3 quality hookers in Coles, Riccatelli, and Amor. Yeah. Amor's taken a while because he liked the old McDonald's and the like, but he looks like he's got his act together. Yeah.
Even the midfield options they have got, they're just really stacked in some particular areas. The only question mark that they have is when they're first 5.
First 5.
When their number 1 first 5 is not played, they kind of get away with it. Their props. I know what you mean. They're not as dominant, but when you've still got experience, when you can roll a Romano on and you've got a Barrett and a Whitelock back, that makes them still pretty good. Which is why they'll be one of them. They'll probably be the first probably number 1 ranked team in New Zealand who will basically play in the finals. I think the Hurricanes will be that second team. Yeah, in the number 4 position.
So the Highlanders have basically got one more derby game left. I believe it's against. Actually, I was going to say the Chiefs. I'm not sure. You might want to check that on the old. And then basically all of their games are non-derby, and not only that, they've got a pretty good run on them. The Chiefs got the issue. I think the Chiefs. It's an injury situation for the Chiefs. They've got a few derby games on. The Blues, they've got 4 derby games. 2 against the Hurricanes, 1 the Crusaders and the Chiefs. They've got 4 derby games, and then they've also got to go play the Reds over in Queensland as well.
Just for the Highlanders, they don't have too many more derbies left, but it is going to be tough for them because they play the Hagawaris at home. Now, the Hagawaris are improved, but
at home
they should win.
They'll win that.
They should win. But this is where it gets tough. They go to South Africa, they play the Lions, and then they play the Stormers. Right. Now, probably going to get knocked around a little bit.
Yep.
And then they come back to New Zealand. The second to last round, they play the Bulls, and that game is at home. Then they play the Waratahs at home. But both games pretty winnable. So you've got to say, out of those 5 games, they probably should win 3 out of the possible 5. So that probably keeps them in good stead. So I'm actually picking them to be in the finals.
Highlanders.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think they should squeak through. Yep. But it could be an interesting one. They get back a couple of weeks in Dunedin, and they're probably going to have to fly back over to. Oh, actually, no, they'll probably end up playing Crusaders if they squeak.
Yeah. Now the Blues, they're probably, you'd have to say
I think they're gone.
they're probably gone, but they're an outside chance.
Look, put it this way: if they manage, for them to manage to get into the finals, they're going to have to pick up their game. They pick up the game. They're looking at wins against top two New Zealand conference teams, or the top two teams in the competition, right?
Yeah.
And the Crusaders and the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
If they do that, then they go into the finals with a truckload of confidence.
I mean, as we said last weekend, it was a must-win game for the Blues, and they came up short.
And it's a disappointing way that they came up short. They should have recognised what was on the line.
Andre just made a point about the Hurricanes. Might be a different story for them if they have to travel. Yeah, definitely. If they have to travel to South Africa, the South African teams will know exactly where to attack them. And to be fair,
they're not going to have to travel, right? Because here's the scenario: they're going to finish in 4th position, right? Most dollars to donuts are going to finish in 4th position. Who's going to finish number 1?
Probably
Crusaders. So they'll actually. So the top 2 get the week off, I think, in the first week. And so then they'll get a home game in that first round of knockout games, and then it'll come down to who's left and that sort of thing. So they could end up playing the Crusaders at home.
Question for yourself, Ashwin. The Highlanders, with Ben Smith out for 6 to 8 weeks, who steps into that fullback position for the Highlanders?
My mind's gone blank because they had him. Who did they have there before?
Well, the options were they would have had Buckman.
Yeah, and Ioane played that fullback.
Ioane played at fullback.
Marty Bank
but they now had the 2 injuries. Had the 2 injuries to both. Banks, I believe, is still out. Andre, you're a Highlander supporter. Maybe you can help us out with this.
Well, it's interesting because
who's going to be the fullback for the Highlanders?
Their wingers are genuine wingers. They're not really full. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
So you're not going to put Tavita Lee at the fullback, are you?
Oh
no.
I'm picking probably Josh Mackay.
Yeah. Well, he's just coming to the squad.
Yeah.
So that would be a logical one to go Josh Mackay, because then if they do have a requirement for him at first 5, he can obviously go forward.
Can Faddis play 15?
Well, Faddis, logically, Faddis could play 15 because they play on the wing every now and then, right? So logically, he could play on the wing.
That's a real.
But I think you're I think you're.
We can lend them Michael Collins. He's an Otago boy.
Yeah, he's an Otago boy. Yeah.
We could trade, maybe make a trade with them or something like that. Wouldn't it be great if we could trade?
Yeah, we'll take Ioane and you can have
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen, no.
Not going to happen. Oh, well, there we go. We're almost done.
Yeah, I was just like, so we come to the game that we're looking forward to this week. And as I said to Paul last week, it's just like these days it's almost every game because everything's just so close. You know, apart from the runaway leaders at the top and the Hurricanes and
Andre, call me. Great minds think alike, brother.
Yeah,
I agree. Faddis to play fullback.
But everybody else is basically, apart from the Sunwolves are out, but everybody else has got a shot. Yeah. They could make it to the finals, or they could be out the back door. So every game has got something like it. You got the Blues against the Hurricanes. You know, I think we were talking, and it's just like I don't think it'll be a blowout in terms of to the Canes.
No, I think it'll be a really good contest, but I think at the end of the day, I probably have to pick.
It'll be in the backs and with the control that Bowden Barrett should have.
You know, all I'm asking for the Blues, I'm pleading with it. Show me something.
So exactly.
Show me something. Yeah. Show me what you've got. Show a little bit more ball and a little bit more discipline. I think you got
the bottle.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, just before we sort of get too apoplectic about it, Rebels and the Reds, mate. Rebels and the Reds.
Rebels and Reds.
Because the reason why I say the Rebels at the moment, the Rebels are still at number 1.
I think the Rebels will take that.
Rebels will take it. But it's just like, if the Reds manage to tip it up, right, they end up going nearly to the top of their conference scenario. You know, that's the sort of closeness in that Australian conference. So I think that's pretty much. I think if I wasn't going for the Blues one, obviously it'd be the Rebels and the Reds game. That will be the pick for the week for me.
Oh, there's a few good games there to get your teeth into the weekend. I think the just basically looking at it, yeah, I'd have to go Hurricanes be the Blues. I would go Rebels versus the Reds. That's in Melbourne. Vodacom Bulls versus the Crusaders. Going to be interesting, but you know what? I think the Crusaders will probably take. I think they'll be disappointed with their last performance. Is Sam like getting to South Africa? Not too sure. That's a bit of an
It doesn't
interesting
really
one.
matter to them, does it?
Yeah, Highlanders, Hagawares. I think the Highlanders will
Yeah.
be too good. Now, here's the interesting one: Chiefs, Sharks.
We'll keep Andre's in the chat room and giving us some really good comments today, so we'll keep him happy and say we'll go with the Sharks on that one.
Yeah. I think so. I think the Sharks will win that one. And lastly, we have got the Lions. Oh, sorry, 2 more games. Lions, Waratahs. That's at Vodacom Park.
Heavy Lions.
Vodacom Park. Alice Park. I think the Lions to take that out from the Waratahs seem to have lost their main attacking weapon.
Well, their game plan was the high ball out to the wing, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then
I don't know how high his brother can jump.
Brumbies, Sunwolves in Canberra. Go to the Sunwolves, but I think the Brumbies will take that victory.
Yeah, that's about it. And,
the Red Bulls.
oh no, I'll have to go to sleep, mate. I'll have to go to sleep because I got to go the under 8 restricted game on Saturday morning. So
yeah, he's a nana. I text him at 10 o'clock. I'm going to sleep.
No, I didn't say I was going to sleep. I said that everybody's asleep, so I thought I'd better not take it. Otherwise, we end up talking really loud when we start talking about the game, don't we? Well, that wraps up another show. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Good having you on the show again. Good having me on the show. And thanks, Paul.
It's good night from him.
Yes, good night from him. Good night. Paul will be back with you tomorrow night with this man. And I'm not sure whether I'll be on or not. I'll see how things are traveling for me. With that All Blacks edition. So, do all the things like subscribe, hit the bell, like, subscribe to Paul's Patreon page, and he'll see you tomorrow night here at the Driving Maul.
Absolutely. And great comms too, by the way, Andre. Fantastic work.
See you.
See you guys.